You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, Principal Matters listeners. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, along with my co-host, Jen Schwanke. It's Monday Matters, and Jen, this episode is going to be coming out March the 10th. And before we were recording, I was telling you about a book I've been reading, and you were like, oh, I could tell you about a book I've been reading. So we were like, well, let's just tell listeners about the books we've been reading. So we just decided that today we'll just kind of do a quick conversation around what are some things we've been reading and learning. Because for me, I love to read, especially as I step into a new calendar year. I've been reading a book called The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese, and it's this incredible book that's set in rural India, over three different generations of family. And I don't like to give away stories, but I'll just say that it's beautifully written. The author himself actually narrates the audio version. So I had a print copy and the audio. So as I was traveling, I was getting to listen to this book. But there were just so many things that I loved about the book, not only just the storytelling, the author does a beautiful job of placing you into the minds of the characters. And he also does a really great job of just incredible symbolism. So the whole idea of the covenant of water, I won't give away the plot, but there's this incredible scene where one of the main characters toward the end of the novel is standing in water and thinking about how all of these generations of experience have come together in her life. And so I've had a lot of thoughts as I've been thinking about that book, because it just makes me think about the trajectories of our lives. Like, if you were to go down the road 50 years from now, where are you going to see the threads of the work I'm doing? Or when I think about things I'm doing today, how are they affecting the people around me, or the things that will happen to me tomorrow? Or the other question I've been wrestling with is what am I not seeing? What are the things I'm experiencing, even right now or today, and I really have no idea how important they are. And so those are some of the things that have been going through my mind, Jen. What have you been thinking about as you read?
Well, and listeners should know that you haven't read the book I'm going to talk about, and
Right.
I haven't read the book you talked about. So I did, as you were talking, I wrote down The Covenant of Water, because that needs to be in my next book, I think. I just finished a book that my dear friend Sarah, recommended to me, and it was a moment where you realize your friends really know you.
Mm.
This book that I just finished is by the author Katherine May, who's an English author, British, and it's called Wintering. And this book is not new. It was published in 2020, and it was a New York Times bestseller, and I missed it somehow. But here's why my friend knows me so well. I always struggle in winter. I always have. And it's the January, February, March, the grayness, where I live in the Midwest in Ohio, and it truly can be gray for 30, 40, 50 days at a time. And, I start to feel ugly and foggy and grumpy. I'm 52 years old, so there's a little bit of rage in there. All these feelings, right? And it can, every year I feel like it's a new thing, and I'll have to remind myself, no, Jen, this is every February, and there's a lot going on physically and emotionally. It's okay. You'll get through it. So this book spoke to me, and my friend Sarah must have known I needed it, because she uses the analogy of wintering to not necessarily describe winter, but to describe periods of life. So it might be illness, it might be trouble at work, it might be the loss of a relationship, or the loss of a loved one. And the key ideas that she shares with us are they speak to me, because my instinct is to fight against winter and to fight against hard times by working harder, working faster, swing the sledgehammer a little bit harder. But she kind of implores us to, chill out a little, to rest and retreat, and really think about how nature and how previous generations survived and even flourished in winter. And again, winter not necessarily meaning the season, but periods of life. There were parts of the book where I was like, oh no, like when she decides to tackle winter by taking polar plunges. That will not be happening, my friends, ever. I will never swim in cold water. But she talks about the hibernation of animals and how birds respond to hard times, and about hibernation. And it was I kept thinking of my friend who was telling me something by recommending this book. And I think what I need to learn from it, especially from a school leader's perspective, there are really dark times. There are really hard times. There are hard minutes, days, months, years, and we can rage against them, or we can look deeper to see what lessons we are being given through those hard
Mm.
times.
Man, Jen, both of those books just have so much um, symbolism, but also application to the way that we should be living. You're reminding me of a book, just talking about wintering, that I read last year called "The Year of Living Danishly" by Helen Russell, and it's the story of this UK couple who moves. They moved to Denmark because of her husband's work, but she's never lived in such a cold climate. And one of the things, and I can't remember the word, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but there's this Danish word that the locals use to describe what they do in winter because it's so cold and there's so little social interaction during the winter that everyone tries to create the environment in their homes to make it as comfortable and soothing and restorative as they can until the spring thaw. And so they've actually built their entire winter planning and ecosystem around trying to use the winter as a way to restore yourself before you step into spring. And I've never thought of winter that way. But when I hear you saying those things, it just makes me think about, and so let me try to apply this to listeners. The hard things that we go through, the difficulties that we're facing, the mindset that we have walking through those hard times will often influence the kind of lessons we learn through them. And sometimes you don't learn the lessons till later. But I do. There's some wisdom there in terms of like preparing yourself for the harder seasons and how to. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if you can actually prepare yourself for those things, but there's. I hear some wisdom there.
I hear some wisdom there too, and I think there's been many people who live in many cold climates for many, many years, and I think there's bad ways to approach that dark time. Even in this book, May references, high levels of alcoholism in
Hmm.
cold climates. And then there's the positive ways to use that time to rest and restore. When I picked up the book, I was certain it was going to take, however many hundred pages to tell me to put on cozy socks and drink hot chocolate. It did not do that. It looked a lot deeper into it, and I'm going to think about it in the coming months and years to try and reframe my response to dark times.
Well, normally when we step into these Monday Matters conversations, we're bringing things that you and I are learning in our work with leaders. So it's fun to hear the things that you're thinking, that I'm thinking, the books that we're reading. And I know that listeners, you may or may not have a book list like Jen and I do. I think because we're both former language arts teachers, we love to read. But I will say that it's reading for me is a way to make sure that I'm not just getting captured by my own thoughts, or that I'm not just thinking about education all the time too. It
Right.
helps place me in the mind of someone else in a different time, in a different place, in a different perspective. So it's in a way it's just really refreshing, Jen, to
Right.
just go that deeply into someone else's story.
Oh, absolutely. It's so healthy. Principal Matters podcast listeners, don't just read education books, read other books too. It's so cathartic. It really is.
It really is. Well, as we're wrapping up, I want to say just a couple of things to listeners as you're thinking about your work. Um, and I don't want to try to be too like sappy, but I do want to just ask you to think about a couple of things that I've heard from Jen and I's reflections. One is, when's the last time you took a step back and just thought about um, the the small ways and the big ways that you're influencing people around you? Because you may not be aware that you're creating a stream that's going to keep on running long after you're there. when's the last time that you took a look at the hard things you're going through and ask yourself, what are those wintering lessons that you've learned from past wintering experiences that can help you stay mindful as you're stepping into the work you're doing today? And Jen, it's always helpful for me whenever I'm hitting a season that may be difficult is to ask, when's the last time I felt like this overwhelmed or this stuck or this whatever, and what helped me get through that last season? And a lot of times it involves reaching out to somebody I trust. A lot of times it involves getting things out of my head and onto paper. A lot of times it involves saying, I need your help to somebody. And so leaders, don't forget that you're not a machine, you're a person. And so we'd love to hear what you're reading and what you're thinking. So if you have thoughts or ideas or questions for Jen and me, please feel free to reach out. But Jen, thanks for checking in on this Monday. And Principal Matters listeners, we can't wait for you to hear our flagship episode on Wednesday, our encore episodes on Friday. And usually, Jen, I ask you what's coming up next for you, but this is middle of March. Anything current going on that we need to know about?
Oh, goodness. Not right now. Just preparing for some conferences this summer, and I hope to see a lot of our listeners there.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you, Jen, for checking in, and Principal Matters listeners, thank you for doing what matters, and we hope you have a fantastic week. If you want to check out our resources, you can at my website at williamdparker.com. And Jen, where can they find you?
They can find me and get a hold of me at jenschwanke.com.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.